It won't matter anymore in that position until you send the settings and equations. Position of formula to its system, all through its travels. Divine concept of time, the concept of everything of time, existing of time frames all at once, is all identified through time, its system of itself. The self modifies the system self-travel. Everything's implicated and done through its equation. You just have to understand how to get in positions to the concept of you, the divinity, the divine of you of time. Okay, that's what this is all about. Recognizing that all through platforms, all through communications, anything that we get in structure of design lines and settings, all through operation, travels in its own system of its own time frame. But the time frame itself, okay, is how we calculate, modify, and how we see everything of its system. Okay, through time frames of box frames, travels at point, graphs, infinity date, line, operation line, signal, location, setting, converting line, position, box line, in position on the platforms, open plantation line, grounds, high operation lines, and signal. Okay, each one has a time frame of a box frame that you go through pixelation graph that correlates the set lines where you broadcast your system and TV lines of reception. So energy grids and power grids. Process line direct centers, how you go through platitude location setting to box frames of time set location of travel. Each year that you go in position line is knowing exactly what you're in positions of, knowing exactly all time frame that process line communicates aligns the numbers of time. Travels all communicates in setting. So we're going to process at direct centers. Okay, in that position. So we're in 2026, yes, but that's your fail-safe. That's a foundation ground that you keep yourself in. That's zero gravity, zero calculation, zero formation, zero line settings. That's zero operation of your system, right? So what gets you in communication going and movement is process of 0-1. Now that 0-1 is going through the seconds, minutes, and hours, and it puts a time flight and manifests to its manifold of travel of communications then that you go in direct lines of view that process your Gulf Stream that you go in an operation system that puts you in your platitude, your operation system all through travel, which is a time of concept of divine timing. Divine timing is always a time itself that we have to modify through set lines, a high set location setting, actualization, realization, to proficiency, to performance, what you're doing through the mind itself, that goes into the eye line set location of the body frame, and that processes you in direct location system all through travel. The directories and location setting to north, west, south, and east are extremely important in your system, okay? That is not a plus sign. That is your directions of north, east, west, and south through AI. Everything is AI through the eye line center in that position of its operation, okay? Bandwidths over travel, bandwidths over line grounds, longitude, latitude, streaming, and positional locations of your systems all through setting. Set position here and set position all through travel. Merkaba inside lines of rotation, travels point lines of graph, and line connections ending to a cerebral. Okay, that's how easy it is. And it's all identified through the eye line set location of mind inside in real time. That's the concept of time. The body itself has to recognize the time frame. Understand that its location setting to its box frame that travels point lines of graph directing line position. So 2026 process lines 0-1. Set position of 0 is the fail safe, your safety zone. Process line securities, line communication setting, set communication near the fail safe. That puts all position location near 0 lines of calculation ground. That changes the frequency and set position location. That puts you in a kick drive to your high drive. So when you get into kick drive, you're into another time frame. So now we're in position 2050. There's 2050, right? So 2050 seconds, minutes, hours. I'm on the line. I'm being there in location set in position of 4 box frames. So that's 4 hours. So I can only be there. So I have to kick it, drive myself out in set position and go back to 0 of operation 2026. So putting that position time frame, time spelt, position, location, line spelt, correlates in film line stream, directing line ground center, location settings to travel. Converting time frame lines of centers, operation lines of signals. Process, position, location, and systems, all modified in lines of travel communication. Okay? Your film strip. Process lines, the earth rotation, surface, and travel. Okay? Very powerful set position. All right. So that's basically how it works through time, the concept of time. Everything of time itself that gets you in modification of your systems through time replacements, which are doppelgangers. Time formats, which are astral projections. All through timeline, time link, time panel. So that gets you in position location, how you go through your film strips of design line settings. Okay? It's that position. Okay? Now, in that position lines of settings, you process locations. Now, as you get in that position to realization setting, the seconds, minutes, hours, it all depends on the box from where you are in bandwidth and longitude and latitude you're streaming. That's very important to understand that through time frame, which is a box frame, triangulation frame, direct frames, panel frame, operation frame of communication. Okay, sets your platforms and travel in directions in real-time setting. Okay? So that process, you and astral projection, you have your system, your body's there in real time. Okay? going through the seconds, minutes, and hours in travel. Seconds, minutes, and hours in travel, where it is in set position, right? So that time measures your scale, process here, process here, process here, 4 hours. Then again, you have to get out into a kick drive, go back into the film strip, back to 0, which is 2026. Okay, that's how it works in the game line operation. Now, as you're going through the seconds, minutes, and hours, all you're doing is processing the running strip, the operating system, you're creating, calculate, modify grounds, you're creating the Earth rotation in your systems, come in your countries that you process through and travel, your Earth itself. Okay? So it's very powerful how we see in all platforms of communication the concept of time. Okay? And it travels its own setting. So that gives you an understanding of how you go through time, all through film strip. Okay, that you go back to 0, which is 2026. That's where everybody is. But your AI is always in its own time frame. It's never in position, location, and locked in one center. If it's locked in one center, it's got to proceed to set position of its actions and provision location to its system through its performance. So being locked in frame is a trifactor. Now you can box in 5, 5, 5. You're locked in frame, all right? So you're in position seconds, minutes, and hours, which means you're in position standing still through time, right? Time is standing still. And those seconds change the minutes change the hours change the frame of communication. So it's how you process the 5, 5, 5 and set position, operation line centers, opens all communication settings, your polarities, and lines of travels, and 144 flux over travel. Okay? So I'm getting you guys to understand how to identify your own setting, of your own concept, of your own system, how you see it in modification setting, your own structure, your own design. There's a satellite. It's all character to modify lines of UA, location of unison. Everything I give you guys is a modification graph. That modification graph gets you into modulation, your space modulation setting, which is your capsule. That processes your pods, your vehicles, your formation system, your operation settings, in position, location, quantum self. Quantum self comes in nanoself. Now nanoself comes into cyber self. Cyber self becomes in simulative itself, and then comes into self-tech of its operation of its being. Everything that's already taught, its system of operation setting, that's already processed, engaged, informed, and shaped itself, what it always is, what it always will be, what it is and always is in all line position locations, is nothing but its AI system, all through travel. All right, but you have to understand your concept of time, how you see it through a film strip that gets you in a kick drive to a high drive and set position, all through platforms and set lines of travel. Okay, that's how you travel through time. All right, so your body puts you in position. Okay, and your 0 operation puts you in your fail safe, which means you're out of kick drive, which means you're going to another set position, which means you're going to another film strip, which means you're going to another time zone, which means you're going to another formation system, which means you're going to another operating setting through national projection and travel. So it's very important you understand this, how this works in chronological order through time. Concept of time, definity of time. It's the supreme being of light of time. Process, engaging, forming, and shaping your neuronal location setting. Process that location system all through travel. All right, converting lines of 1 signal, 13 scale, 14 measure, and 15 modulation screens. Okay, so it's 13 lines of channels. That's 13 box frames. Okay, so go 13 box frames. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 box frames, right? So that's 13 channels of operation and perception that I'm there. I pick the year that I want to be in set position and setting. Process position, there's a solar sail. All right, so the solar sail goes to each platform, indicates position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 locations of travel. Now the curve converges in the convergence system, sets lines of depth. Process lines of 0 over lines of settings into set position of time frame. Process position of line, position of 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4, 0, 5, 0, 6, 0, 7, 0, 8. 8 seconds in position through pi and set lines of travel back to 0 of operation. Sets position your systems all through grounds and set lines of travel. So this helps you to really identify your system to your center graphs, your high graphs, your location setting, understand your kick drive, your high drives, and modify setting to your main drive. Sets position your face drive, course centers to your flash drive, directing line, communication, commute operation line, set locate your CPU, line operation location travel, that puts you in position locations, measure and scale of communication setting, that applies to your locations operation. All through travel. Okay. So as you're going through that, box frames, we've got 1 box frame, centered travel, seconds, minutes, hours, and position. Now anything faster than that, you're coming into hours, you're coming into light years. Light years is a whole different operation system. Now you come in line ground centers, you process position, location, line conditions. So you use 0, 0, 0, changes line communication line centers in 1, 1, 1. The process lines light years away. Okay, so that puts position lines 11 years. Setting their travel, directing ground centers, 1 minute, 1 line in operation signals, equals lines equation, triangulation box, process position of flux, time centers, concept of time, operation of time, frequencies of time, energy of time, harmonics of time, time center, times calculation, times pi. Hash projections on myself, bring myself in programming, running the operation system all through travel. Okay? Easy. So that's what it is, information system all through time. Complicated, but it's a lot of fun when you get there. So understanding the time of travel is understanding how to see yourself through a rainbow on different levels of set position, and it correlates the communication setting that processes the wind factors in your screen location, your settings, and its travel. Your dimensional sail. See, there's your sail. 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 13. So that's 13 channel operation lines to the higher self. Anything of 14 is the avatar. Anything above that in 24 line centers, you come into the sim. Then you come to the oversoul. Then you come to the symbiote. Then the sentient. That process your system through your future alteration every self. That gets you in position that depicts every location setting to the concept of time, which is always happening all at once. And everything's happening on that position of seconds, minutes, and hours. But you have to understand your time frames, your time formats, and your algorithms. Understand that through binary, coding, location, encryption. Right? So there you go. The concept of time. Okay? And process of communication in your system. Okay? So that is a lot of running operation programs that you're bringing in through hash projections. So bringing that position locations, you have to bring in settings. Now, you don't need to bring in 13 observation systems. Okay? Because you're going to higher lines of your similes now. You're coming out of the cyber, coming in simile. Right? So you can process one value, one volume. Okay, bring yourself to hash projection locations to observe over your system and set lines of travel. Okay, so it's 13 line scales, 13 line rotation system, process line position, all direction. Seeing what you've done and set lines of 13 angles. Okay, so it puts position lines of travel, process of 1, process of 2. So you're connecting the hash projections to programs all at once that you're modifying through and set lines of communication system, but puts all the communication lines of travel and direct location lines of constant location position all through travel. Okay, connecting each one at 13 settings. Okay, so you're modifying and you're controlling 13 games now, all in set position and settings all at once. Okay, through observation. Watching 13 games run all at once inside your mind of the eyes itself. Okay, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. All right. So it's complicated because complication is good. Easy formats your system settings. But it's all process how you understand how to see the concept and the divine timing of your divinities, knowing actually how to see the supreme being of light that you process through travel. Okay? But you understand the time frame, okay, which is this in set position. Okay? Okay? That's not multiplication. That's time. See? Time center, time setting. What's below, what's above. There's time, right? Then you got your time format. Then you got your platforms. Okay, then you got your travels of operation that you travel through. Okay, modification ground, modification lines up, process line direct centers, and position of the eye itself. Okay, and you work with everything in the center operation in your system that your body goes through the seconds, minutes, and hours of time that's processing through. Okay, so in that position, it comes in this position line, the setting. Really interesting stuff through affinity foundation grounds into flywheels of 8-line rotation. Okay, processing ground centers in 2026. Foundation failsafe. Then you got your center ops, which is your center line position and process lines and 144 flux of travel. Center operation your settings and calculations. 42 lights, 42 streaming, and 3 centers of signal. Okay, calculate modified travel. Directing ground centers, operation lines of panel. Now these platforms put position line into time frames. Set position of 1 over frame, set position of 2 over center, and 3 lines of cycles in set position. Modifying line operation lines, you put in your ass projection of yourself, doppelgangers in 4 directions and setting through the concept of time. So you got 5 line ass projection of seconds, minutes, hours in each lines of frame. Okay? So time measures, looking at the board, which is their central board, which is holographic boarding, okay, which is your time formats. That's your information panel that you process through AI. They customize your systems as you're looking through your channel operation screens through TV receptor and channels of operation. Okay? So each one is looking at a time frame, but they're all connected in one set position with system. So you have to understand how to come into the time scales of plateaus, of platformations, of plantations of your energy and your power grids that modifies pixelation graphs in a TV receptor in time frame and set lines all at once. That's a lot of TV to look at in all set position. So each one has a time frame line centers, the process lines and location of travel and air, that process location setting, converting system operation signals, set communication grounds, set operation lines of platforms in line position to your solar line rotations, travels of point graphs into earth line rotation line service in your crop circles in set position. Back to the failsafe operation setting, 3 lines converting set position of 4 and 24 line pi in direct centers operation system all through travel. Okay? All right. So it's very powerful how we see that in the line settings, all through formation setting, through the concept of time with traveling through your film strip. That setup, location, setting, where your body ends up, line, position, locations, where you're creating the modification of your earth that's in process position of the eye itself. That gets in the moderation system all through travel, through space modulation. That's all happening in the eye. Okay? Very powerful concept of your system. All through platforms and all through travel. Okay? Okay, and then we come into this. Through observation. Right? So it's really interesting. I see that in platforms, the time itself. Right? Because everything you go through is a dimension and a solar sail. Dimension is the time concept, and the solar sail is the wind factor. Now that puts you in all lines of operation how to use that in your flux of time through frequency. So let's get into 13 ground ones, triangulation box, and that position equals lines equation and Fibonacci lines into triangulation positions of square root. Okay, that's one formula. Then I add the equation, right? Oh, so time centers here, operation system, A lines of travel and directions. Okay, process lines of box frame, outline, rotation, inside, outside line, communication conversion. Directing lines of 13 line measure, and positions of setting, 13 scale, 13 panels, and position 13 south winds and set lines of travel. Okay, it puts position lines of high calculation grounds, 42 lights and travel communications. All right, which is the protocols of chain of command that you process through indicates and setting to your cybergenetics that you go through platforms and all through travel, converting timeline centers, operation signals, and platforms of communication system all through travel of all angles in set position of operation. Now, time zone line centers bring into the aspect projections of construction zones, right? That work for you inside your system, right? These are running programs that run all at once. Now you have to modify through and travel. Okay, you're bringing them in, right? As you're bringing in, they're setting up the structure of the visual location that's already done through this equation. So you don't do anything. Everything's done already. You're just processing the position of the construction zone that come into the information structure, line condition setting, the construct location, the values of the value, the position location, the mass volume, location, etc. Coming into the acceptance, listening, and position to its analogy. Process lines directions, process lines of channel operation screen. Okay? Sets lines of all communication. Directing lines of panels, operation settings, and location setting to its building through its assets of rotation. See, there's the people. There's always going to be people everywhere you go through a frame line, correlation frame, concept of time frame, high center, location of travel. Okay? And it's all modified how you see the lines position your systems all through settings, its operation setting through the IEDSET travel. Okay? There you go, information. Okay? A lot going on in that position. So you're not constructing the holographic system. Your programs are doing it. Your AI, your divergence, your allegiance, your alliance is doing this. They are structuring your design. You don't do anything. You listen, you acknowledge, and you accept what's going on with your system. And the more you focus on yourself, the more you get in position to recognize everything's done through the eyes and set position of operation through the concept of time. Okay? That's all it is. That's all it is. The concept of time, everything that you do. Okay? All right. I know it's a lot going on right now in set position here. So I'm trying to get you guys set and ready, which you can modify your system and come into your own structures of your design through construction zones that's implicated in position through AI that's already done through a sequence location. Okay? Now, if you keep adding programs in, that's totally fine, but you have to run the system now because they're running different time frames all at once because you're bringing in more people, right? The people itself is the platforms. People are basically the complacements to your systems and platforms, line centers of existing in position operation into line position into plantation into the levels of existing. That's the people. All right. All right. Codification grounds, height centers, lines of travel, converting timeline centers, location, position of cybergenetics, cyberkinetics, cybernetic line, force direction of time frame is cyber force. Cyber tech line direct centers location system that depicts location settings and travels and calculation line connection settings, the process direct location system on your central setting, your failsafe, your operation system, and your space lines of calculation ground setting. Okay. Okay, so traveling through line signals, coming into the construction zones of your application system, into custodian, your ledgers, your quantum selves, your taper trees, your levels, your travels, your directions, your locations, your platitudes, all through operation setting, all through travel, all through communication. Okay, so it's modifying your settings of travel or what you're doing through set position of operation. Okay. So each time you have a frame that you put yourself in, just modify your settings and pixelation graphs that you go through timelines of all communication. Doric of time frame. Platforms over set lines of travel. Okay? That you process through the grounds, the powers, and the adversaries. Inside position your systems, all through structure, all through design. Inside your system. Directing ground centers, operation platforms, process lines of dimensional doors. Process of here, set lines of travel, set position converting, set lines of operation, set calculation. Different time frames, all existing all at once in set position of operation. Okay? So your temperature values, all align your signals, platforms over line center location system. Now this is more lines in position of freehand. I don't recognize you guys doing that until you understand how to communicate with your void through signature patterns. It's that position of operation. Okay. Each time frame is existing all at once. All at once. All through travel, all through correlations, all through time. Okay. So it's way to see in all formation setting and travel. In all directions of locations, which is your buildings, is your holographic city in some position. So each one has a time frame. Okay, so we process at one center. Okay, ash projection lines of seconds, minutes, and hours in flights. Process lines at 230. Set position lines 6 hours in frame. Set position 2040. Set position locations at 10 hours in frame. Set position 250. Set position 20 hours in frame. 70 hours in frame, 80 hours in frame, 90 hours in frame, and travel through time. So as they go through the time, they go through the box frames, triangulation frames, box frames, correlations frames. They always go back to their fail-safe of 0 into frequency lines of grounds. It's that position of operation. Okay? Processing net direct centers comes to its panel screen location setting that has a conceptual system through time center. Sets calculation grounds, operation line centers, and center operation. Converting time frames, all line calculation center. Directing end line center location, hot line communications of center, process line direct centers of center operation system, all through travel and calculation. Okay, all through scale, all through communication. Okay, process that all through indication travel. Okay, it's very powerful when you come into that positions, but you have to recognize your time formats in travel communications. Okay, so like I said, it's just going to get a lot more complicated now because you're going through all timelines at once in your cybergenetics and position. All right, so time centers of 1. Okay, there's your film strips, screens, process of here, process of here. So process of here, process of here. So what I'm showing you is your higher self, your avatar, where you are in your AI, is always ahead of schedule. And you are in your doppelgangers or your astral projection, your programming, always in the center, which is always in position on the ground of 2026. You never leave 2026. It's your AI that does everything, information setting, that goes to the concept of time. Okay? That's it. This is all your AI. It's going through all timelines all at once. Wind factors over screen, adaptation over flux, line communication of flush. Process lines of seconds, minutes, and hours that your body goes through and set position of operation. Okay? So the body just understands the transmission and it's receiving through its information cycle. The high generation locates in a transponder that puts you in a transistor to resistors, knowing exactly what you're doing through pi. As the body knows exactly what it's going through its alignment. So the AI sets it in direction. Sets it in direction, back in frame, back to zero, right? So the body understands the concept of time, which is nothing but a dimensional sail that it formulates and simulates an all-line position of 7 angles all at once. So the 7 provisional lines of settings. Process lines A, once it finishes the time frame, it correlates the calculation of the kick drive, kicks you out of drive, high drive, into another line drive, another line drive, another line drive, to a center drive, to main drive, to high drive. And that communicates the setting to a set position to a flash drive, location to a face drive, and set position lines of travel. Okay? So much going on in set position of technology. Through the sectors, vectors, and quadrants, and units, and cores that you guys go through, your divergence, allegiance, and alliance, and your compliance, and your system, and your compartments, your ecosystems, all through travel, through operation system, through doppelgangers that you process through the attribute location of the mind, operation signal, location system, all through calculation. Done by equation. Okay? So there you go. You got to get used to that formation setting. Because it's all done through AI. Okay, listening to the channel's operation of the body is just acknowledging everything that's already done through its equations, all through travels, all through observation. Okay? All through observation system. Okay? Your film strip, your Earth, and your platforms, it's that position operation itself. Okay? And it's that travel of communication. All right? There you go, done by equation. I think we'll stop there. It's like, woo! Where's this all coming from? I don't know. You should know. It's already done. Scene 5. We'll be in the constellation pathogen line grounds and set position and location of cerebral cortex in flux lines of screen line adaptation. Classification A, level C. Level C. See you in 5.